The Nintendo Switch 2 library is stacked. Here are the 15 best games ranked and explained, from massive RPGs to survival horror. No hype, just honest takes on each game's story, gameplay, and overall experience. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is one of the most ambitious RPGs on the Switch 2. You play as a group of young adventurers from a small island who discover that the world used to be much bigger, and it's your job to piece it back together. Literally. Each stone tablet you find transports you to a fragment of the past, where you have to uncover what happened to that land before it disappeared. The game is massive. We're talking 80 to 100 hours, easy. Combat is classic turn-based, but the job system lets you mix and match classes to build your characters the way you want. Fighter, mage, thief, you combine them over time to unlock hybrid skills. The story builds slowly, and it rewards patience. Every island has its own self-contained story, its own people, its own tragedy. It feels like reading a book with 20 chapters, each completely different. Yakuza 0 is set in 1980s Japan and follows two guys, Kiryu and Majima, both caught up in a war over a tiny piece of empty land in the middle of Tokyo. The story gets wild, fast. The director's cut brings sharper visuals, all the original content, and some new additions that flesh out the side stories even more. Combat is brawler style, and you swap between different fighting stances mid-fight depending on what the moment calls for. But honestly, the side content is where this game truly shines. You can manage a real estate empire, run a cabaret club, or just wander around doing the most ridiculous optional quests you've ever seen in a video game. It's dramatic, funny, and surprisingly emotional all at once. The 80s setting drips with neon and style, and the story hits harder than most games twice its budget. Persona 3 Reload drops you into a high school, where you discover a hidden hour between one day and the next. A dark, inverted world filled with monsters called shadows. You're part of a small group that can fight back, and the game splits its time between dungeon crawling at night and living a normal school life during the day. The social side matters as much as combat. Building relationships with classmates, teachers, and strangers directly powers up your abilities. Reload is a full remake, with completely reworked visuals, new story scenes, and a soundtrack that hits hard. The turn-based combat is fast and tactical, built around exploiting enemy weaknesses to chain attacks. The themes running through this game are genuinely heavy: mortality, grief, the will to keep going, and it handles them with real care. One of the most emotionally affecting RPGs you'll play on this platform. Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition. Night City is a towering, neon-drenched open world built on corporate power and human desperation. And you play as V, a mercenary trying to survive a job gone badly wrong. The Ultimate Edition includes the base game and the Phantom Liberty expansion, which adds a whole new district and a spy thriller storyline that's some of the best writing in the game. You move through the city taking on contracts, building your reputation, and chasing down leads on a story that gets messy and personal fast. Combat is first-person and very flexible. You can go loud with guns, hack enemies from a distance, or sneak through entire missions without being seen. The city feels alive in a way that genuinely impresses. The Switch 2 version holds up well technically, and the sheer volume of content here is hard to beat.
Scavs are still crawling. Clean it up, clean it out. Don't want to be bringing the target out under fire, and definitely don't want to slow in your back.
Hollow Knight Silksong is the follow-up to Hollow Knight, and it follows Hornet, a character from the first game, as she wakes up in an entirely new kingdom called Farloom. She's searching for something, and the world around her is full of mystery, hostility, and strange lore buried in every corner. The gameplay is a precision platformer. With deep combat, you dodge, parry, and strike through dozens of enemy types, each with patterns you need to learn. Hornet is faster and more aggressive than the original protagonist, which makes movement feel incredible once it clicks. The map is massive, with hidden areas behind hidden areas. Boss fights are highlights some of the most creative and challenging encounters in the genre. Team Cherry obsessed over every pixel of this thing, and it shows. Dark, atmospheric, and deeply satisfying once you find your rhythm. Monster Hunter Stories 3 takes the usual monster hunting world and flips it into a full RPG, where instead of hunting monsters, you bond with them. You hatch eggs, raise monsters called monsties, and bring them into battle alongside you as partners. The story builds a mystery around monsters behaving strangely across the land, a corruption spreading through the ecosystem, and you're the writer trying to figure out why. Combat is turn-based rock-paper-scissors at its core, but it goes deeper as you learn attack types and chain powerful combo moves with your monstie. It's genuinely accessible, but has real strategic depth if you lean into it. The Monster Hunter world's creature design is on full display here, and there's something satisfying about taming the same monsters that usually try to kill you. A great entry point for newcomers, and a fun change of pace for longtime fans. Super Mario Galaxy plus Super Mario Galaxy 2. Two of the most imaginatively designed platformers ever made, now running together on Switch 2 with smooth performance. In the first Galaxy, Mario travels across space, collecting power stars scattered across planets, each with its own gravity and gimmick. The sequel refines everything: tighter levels, more creative power-ups, Yoshi, and cranks the challenge up. These games play with physics in ways that still feel fresh. You'll run upside down, launch between planetoids, and solve platforming puzzles that use gravity as the main mechanic. Each world is short, but dense with ideas, and the pacing never drags. Whether you're playing for the first time or revisiting, these games hold up completely. Galaxy 2 especially has some of the most memorable level design in any Mario game ever made. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. This is the reimagining of one of the most beloved RPGs of all time, and it only covers the opening section of the original, but expands it into a full game with incredible depth. You play as Cloud, a former soldier now working as a mercenary in Midgar, a city run entirely by a corporation that's literally draining the planet's life force. The story pulls you in through character relationships and a growing sense that something much bigger is happening. Combat is real-time, with tactical pauses. You switch between party members, use abilities and magic, and chain attacks together in fights that feel cinematic. Visually, this game is stunning on Switch 2. The Intergrade version includes a bonus episode that adds new story content. The characters are written with real depth, and the world building is rich.
If we rush in, we die.
Is that right?
Need to hit it with magic.
Blueprints is a puzzle game that's hard to describe without losing what makes it special. But here's the honest version. You explore a mansion that rebuilds itself every time you enter. You're trying to reach Room 46, a room that may or may not exist. And the entire game is about piecing together the logic of how the house works. Each run, you choose which rooms appear by drafting from a set of cards, and the layout changes every time. You find clues, solve environmental puzzles, and slowly understand more about the history of this place and why you're searching it. There's no combat, no pressure, just pure discovery. It sounds simple, but the depth is remarkable. The kind of game you think about between sessions, scribbling notes, chasing a theory. One of the most quietly captivating games on the platform. Trails in the Sky First Chapter is the kind of RPG that builds a world so thoroughly, it almost feels like reading a novel. You play as Estelle, a trainee bracer, basically a licensed adventurer, traveling the kingdom of Liberal with her adopted brother, Joshua. The story starts small and personal, but the world around it is dense with political tension, hidden history, and characters with real motivations. Turn-based combat uses a positioning system, where turn order changes based on your moves, making every fight a small puzzle. The writing is the star here. Every NPC has something to say, and it actually changes as the story progresses. The first chapter is the beginning of a much longer saga, but it tells a complete, satisfying story on its own. If you have patience for slow openings that pay off big, this one rewards you in a way few RPGs do. Final Fantasy Tactics is a strategy RPG set in a grim, politically complicated medieval world called Ivalice. You play as Ramza, a young noble pulled into a war that nobody's telling the truth about. The gameplay is grid-based tactical combat. You position units, pick their jobs, and think through every action carefully because this game will punish you for playing sloppy. The job system is legendary. You build your characters over dozens of hours by mixing abilities from different classes, and the combinations run deep. The Ivalice Chronicles version includes the original game with updated presentation and the War of the Lions script, which is one of the best localizations in JRPG history. The story is dark, morally complex, and genuinely surprising. If you've ever wanted a strategy RPG that treats you like an adult and doesn't hold back, this is the one. Hades 2 is a roguelike where you play as Melinoe, daughter of Hades and Persephone, fighting upward through the underworld to reach a threat that goes beyond anything the first game dealt with. Each run, you pick up boons from Olympian gods who each offer different playstyle boosts, and you mix them together to find combinations that feel broken in the best way. Every run ends in death or progress, and every death gives you resources and story. The narrative unfolds in pieces across dozens of runs, conversations with gods, with the dead, with characters who remember things you don't yet understand. Combat is fast, precise, and endlessly replayable. Supergiant built the first Hades into one of the best games of its generation, and the sequel goes bigger on every front. Already extraordinary even in its current state. Donkey Kong Bananza is a full 3D platformer that completely reinvents what a DK game can be. You punch, smash, and dig through fully destructible environments. The terrain itself is the mechanic. Floors cave in, walls crumble, and you burrow through entire hillsides to find hidden areas or create shortcuts. The level design works around this in clever ways, rewarding curiosity and rewarding players who break things. It's loud, chaotic, and endlessly fun to just move through. There's a story here too. DK is chasing someone who stole something important, and the journey takes him through a world that keeps surprising you. The humor is exactly what you'd expect from a Nintendo platformer, but the gameplay has a physicality and creativity that feels genuinely new. One of the freshest Nintendo releases in years, and easily one of the best games on Switch too.
There are all sorts of items to find as you explore. Banandium chips are shaped like slices of banana, and they can be traded for
Octopath Traveler 0 is a prequel to the original that expands the world's history and fills in gaps that longtime fans have been curious about for years. The HD 2D visual style pixel art, layered with depth of field effects and dynamic lighting, is still one of the most beautiful art directions in gaming. You follow a new cast of 8 travelers, each with their own chapter and reason for journeying, and the stories eventually weave together in ways that hit hard if you've been paying attention. Combat is turn-based and built around a boost and break system. You identify enemy weaknesses, break their guard, and unleash boosted skills at the right moment. The music is exceptional throughout. Each character feels distinct in personality and playstyle, and the writing for the individual stories is some of the strongest in the series.
Here goes nothing. Be strong. My turn. Ready. It's over.
Resident Evil Requiem is survival horror at its most refined and most ruthless. You're put into a location that starts feeling familiar and safe, and then the game methodically dismantles that comfort. Resources are scarce. Ammo, healing items, even the space in your inventory forces you to make decisions constantly. The enemy design is terrifying and smart, with creatures that react to sound and remember where you went. Exploration is tight and deliberate. Every room a tension-filled question of whether what's ahead is worth the cost of getting there. The story delivers twists that land, characters with real weight, and a sense of dread that builds without letting up. Visually, it's the best-looking game on Switch to hardware. Capcom has been on a streak with this franchise, and Requiem might be the best they've made. That's the list. 15 games that actually deliver on Switch 2. Drop a comment on which one you're playing first. If this helped, hit subscribe. More lists coming soon. See you in the next one.